Obviously, as part of the investment process, we have an investment agreement which we enter into with the investee company, and that contains various restrictions which are intended to protect the interests of the fund. For example, we put money into a company and everybody gets a new car. That's probably not a good thing, unless it's a car firm. We don't invest in car firms. The relationship between the fund and the company, which will last for years, by the way, because this is very patient money. This is an extraordinarily long-term process. That relationship is very important, and we clearly have a strong interest in making our companies as successful as possible. And we try to help them. We're not activist investors. We're not we don't have a firm grip on the company. The company belongs in principle to the founders, and they run their company. We require them to report financial figures to us and any important events that take place on a regular basis. But that conversation can be a very valuable one, and I'd like to think that our investees have found it productive. If one comes across an opportunity that may help them with their business, we'll pass it on to them. But on the whole, they're running their own business, and we're looking forward to their success. Sometimes, of course, companies simply, with the best will in the world, they're not successful, and at that point they may become what I call a zombie. They don't go bust, they don't succeed, they just take up administrative resource. At a certain point, one probably has to say, well, let's just stop because it's not working. But we are very, very patient. I mean, we have had a relationship, we still have a relationship with one of our original investee companies from the first round, and it's a good company and they're doing well, but they've had some ups and downs, some challenges, and we've tried to support them, and I'd like to think that we have succeeded in doing that. But that relationship is a long-term relationship. Both sides have to work at it, and we're here to help, but we're not there to manage, and we understand that very well. Applicants mustn't fear that the fund is going to wade in and tell them what to do all the time. On the other hand, the applicant must never forget that they are now working for a team. They're not actually a sole entrepreneur anymore. They have responsibilities as a director of a company with shareholders, and that discipline in itself is something that entrepreneurs at some stage always have to learn. If the board decides, having heard the presentation, to make the investment, then we enter into a dialogue with the applicant, because obviously we don't just write a cheque there and then. We have to negotiate the terms of the agreement, and depending on how enthusiastically advised or sophisticated the applicant is, there may be more or less in the standard agreement that we have that they find acceptable or unacceptable. We also have to carry out the process of due diligence. That's to say that we have to satisfy ourselves that what we're investing in really is what it says on the tin, and that certain fundamental things such as insurances, names and addresses, details of various sorts, ownership of assets, potential liabilities, that these have all been examined before we actually commit the money of our company, to which we're responsible, to this investment. So that process can be quite demanding. It's not normally very troublesome, but it may take weeks or even months before both sides are absolutely happy with the terms of the deal. And of course, at that stage, the applicant's always free, and the fund is free, just to walk away from the deal. I don't think we've had a case where, in recent memory anyway, when relationship broke down in the course of that discussion. But we have had some quite tough negotiations. I've sat across the table from city lawyers hammering out the terms of the agreement, but at the end of the day, both sides want to achieve the investment, and with goodwill, agreement is always possible.